Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dads of Adventure podcast. We're doing some special episodes this week and throughout the month to celebrate adoption. There's lots of different adoption days going on in November. There's National Adoption Month, which is the whole month of November. There's Orphan Sunday coming up here in a few days, and then we also have International Adoption Day. So what I wanted to do is just get back to some of the roots that we started with, my perspective as a dad who has adopted and also loves his family, and somewhere after that, Disney. And so we've got some great people with us here today. I'll go ahead and introduce the show, and then we'll get started there. But in general, we have the Adventure is Out There organization with us, and some of the dads that participated in some of the programs. We'll get to that in just a moment. For Dads of Adventure, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Dads of Adventure. And you can find this, if you're listening to this podcast, you can find it on video at the DreamsMagicAdventure YouTube channel. Please subscribe there. And you can also find, if you're watching, you can also find this in podcast format on your favorite podcast app. So you can also visit dadsofadventure.com to find out more, sign up for the newsletter, and sign up for our membership. Won't talk too much about that because I want to get to some awesome people. We want to highlight an organization called Adventure is Out There. So we have, I want to just introduce the group that we have here. So we have Josh, who is representing the organization, and then we also have Matt and Jordan, who will introduce them in just a moment and talk about their involvement. But I'm going to turn it over to Josh to tell you where you can find more information about Adventure is Out There, and just what that organization is about and how that came to be.
Perfect. Scott, yeah, thank you for having us. Glad to be here. I think the website is adventure.ngo, and we're also on Facebook. I think it's at AIOT17. You'll find us on there. Thank you again for having us. Adventure is Out There is something that my wife and I, it wasn't really one single instance that kind of born Adventures Out There. It was kind of a culmination of several things. My wife and I are big fans of Disney, big fans of family. And we knew we wanted to do something kind of wrapped around that to kind of give back. And kind of how Adventures Out There kind of came to be was back in 2016, we actually took our niece to Disney. And during that time, she was kind of going through a struggle, kind of rough patch in her life. We saw how much the trip meant to her. So we kind of came back from that trip and realized, hey, it'd be really great to kind of do this to other people, and do this for other people, take them to Disney, because Disney is so powerful, so magical, right? So we knew we wanted to kind of serve families, and we kind of went back and thought, okay, well, what families do we really want to serve? And 10 years prior to that, go back to 2007 for a second, my wife and I were living in Hawaii at the time. While living there, the landlords that we rented from were fostering and adopting. So that was kind of our first exposure to it, right? So we got to see the ups and downs. We got to see the kind of unconditional love and support that they were providing their foster placement at the time. So, kind of going back into 2017, fast forward back now after that 2016 trip, realized that, that experience was kind of foundational for us in a lot of ways to look at the foster adoption angle. And just by looking online at researches, it seems like there's a lot of resources prior to adoption leading up to it, but afterwards, not so much. So we thought there was an opportunity there to kind of jump in and help these families out, these amazing parents and individuals that are giving these kids a future that they otherwise may not have, right? So, and what better way to do it than taking them to Disney and, and beyond. So kind of in a nutshell, that's kind of how I got going. And Adventure is Out There is all about bringing family bonding adventures to first-time adoption families.
Yeah, and just speaking to that, like from my perspective, there's such a bonding experience that you can have at Disney where like the world just disappears. And I won't take away from, but absolutely. I know that like we declared, kind of the year of Disney after our adoption. So I'll just leave it at that. And then that was, a great thing a great thing for us, and the bonding. And so I know Matt and Jordan have some things to say, so I don't want to steal any information from them that they might say. So Jordan, just tell us a little bit about what your adoption experience and just what the organization meant to you as far as being able to have that trip as an experience for your family.
Sure. So I'm very long-winded, so I'm gonna try and keep it brief as much as possible. I'm a talker, but the three that we adopted are my actual nephew and nieces, and we actually initially took custody of them as a safety plan from my sister and brother-in-law. But when they gave up rights to us, we got a little nervous because we had them for a couple of years at that point, that they could get a new judge and get them back. So we wanted to make sure that the kids we never put the kids in jeopardy again. So we went and filed for adoption, and we adopted them. And like I said, we were living in this tiny house, and I'm like, I really want to I have 3 girls, and they're all very, very young. They love Disney. So I'm like, I really want to take them to Disney. I think it'd be really awesome. So I get online and I start planning my trip to Disney through their calculator. And Disney, of course, they calculate things a little bit differently than most people, I think. But it scared me away from Disney because, like, oh, it's $17,000. Like, perfect. We live in this shack. Let's go take the kids to Disney, and we'll take out, a personal loan for this. So we did that. I looked at that, and then my wife is like, you know what? I bet we can find an organization out there that will help, because she emailed Disney directly, and Disney's like, yeah, no, we're not going to do anything for you. You're on your own. And so she found adventures out there, and she's like, hey, there's an organization that is specifically for adoption oriented families or whatever. And they take them to Disney. So we submitted an application or whatever for the process, and went through the whole thing. And it was actually, it felt, Disney's, I never went to. The closest we came as a kid, I always wanted to, took a drive down to, towards Disney, and we were such bad kids that my parents stopped in Myrtle Beach and just made a spring break of that. But it was such a cool experience, and to finally get to go there at 37 years old, it took me a little while, but it was really special, and we'll always be grateful to an organization that supports adoption the way that they did, and really puts that as the focus and the family at the focus. It was pretty special, and we had a great time, and they made sure to make sure that we had everything that we needed so we could have a relaxed time, and as relaxed as possible. But Josh and Coco, their knowledge of Disney really contributed to a fun time, because if I had gone on my own, I would end up lost somewhere in the back of the park, probably doped on a meth or something like that, because it was so big, it was so scary. But they were like, hey, we go here, and they knew every spot. So it was a blast. I can't thank them enough for that.
Yeah, it's good to have people like that to guide you in the right direction. I have my wife. I'm more knowledgeable now, but my wife definitely, was, here where I'm here, so
yeah,
on the knowledge department. So, but,
yeah.
Well, so
just to add on to that real quick, Scott, real fast,
yeah.
is like Jordan's talking about. I mean, for every trip, Coco and I love doing that. I mean, that's because we know Disney so well. Because Disney can be overwhelming, overstimulating, especially for kids that may not, you know what I mean? They may not be able to handle that. Our big thing is kind of, we tag along on our own dime. We pay our own way, but we go along with the families. And it's just specifically for that. So families can enjoy themselves, enjoy the time together, not worry about the chaos that Disney can be, the schedules, the time. Just be the family unit, make memories, and just take everything you can away from that. So that's our big thing. And we get so much out of that, as well as the families, and we make extended family from that. Both Jordan and Matt's families, we keep in touch to this day. Matt, we saw you, I think it was last summer, went up to your neck of the woods. So,
yeah.
We all bond kind of within our own families, and with the extended families themselves on the trips. It's pretty awesome.
Nice. And Matt, I want to get your perspective too. What, again, want to make sure we're yes, say what you feel comfortable with about, you know, your adoption experience, but, you know, just how, um, you know, that trip, you know, was important to you and your family, and that experience.
Right. Well, so we adopted our children. They were a sibling group, a brother and a sister. So my daughter was 10 and my son was 6. They had been in foster care for about 2 years, and my wife and I, decided to, adopt from foster care. Part of it was my wife is a school social worker and I'm a teacher. And so my wife was working with, this, fifth grader, and she was in foster care and didn't have any family options at the time. So my wife was like, well, we got to be an option for this kid, let's do it. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. We hadn't had, our own biological kids yet. We were maybe 3 years into being married, so to speak. So, we were like, yeah, let's do it. So we went through the whole process, all the training and whatnot. And as it turned out, there was an aunt. I'm in Minnesota. There's an aunt in Michigan who came in and was able to take, her niece and adopt her, which was great. But we were all ready to have a kid, and we were all set with the foster care, licensing and whatnot. And so we, took a little bit to, mourn that loss, and then moved on to, looking at, hey, there are, hundreds of kids in foster care in Minnesota. Let's maybe consider, kids that need, a family or a home. So, we went through the process and eventually, found our kids and met our kids and were matched with them, and went through that adoption process. They ended up moving in at the end of March. I think it was probably 2014. Years are going to be bad, so I'll just speak in generalities.
That's all right.
March. We finalized in September. Our kids were just ready to be, finalized, and we were having, some behavioral issues and whatnot, because, kids in foster care and kids that, grow up in rough homes oftentimes have, some trauma in their past, and that comes out as behaviors later on and whatnot. So, we were working through that, and we figured, hey, let's finalize, tell them, you are stuck with us at this point. That permanency, which, we thought would be good. And so that was September. And then in, I think, October, November, of that year, it came across our eyes somewhere. Somebody sent the, thing at Adventure is out there, was this new nonprofit that wanted to send, newly adopted families to Disney World. And, there's a set of criteria and whatnot. And actually it was the kid's former foster mother was like, you guys fit this to a T. You should absolutely, sign up for this. And so we went through that, interview process and whatnot. And, what was really cool was, Josh and Coco called us on our daughter's birthday, which was like, it was either Thanksgiving or the day after Thanksgiving, to let the kids know. So it was a lot of fun. So it was very magical. And then we spent the day watching videos of Disney World and whatnot to just kind of get excited and get ready, and really, it's really so true. That whole like magical thing, when you are, when I was a kid, it was always like, you just won the World Series. What are you doing next? I'm going to Disney, right?
Disney.
And so it's romanticized and whatnot. And yet at the same time, rightfully so. And I think Jordan was saying somebody was saying, it just takes you out of the real world and puts you in this, fantasy world where you don't have to worry about, these things, these normal burdens of life, and you can just spend time making memories as a family. So that's kind of the magic of Disney. Also, when you're looking at kids who have had literally nothing in, their entire childhood, and, not, in some cases, not even a meal here and there. And then all of a sudden, they get to go to the quote unquote happiest place on earth. I mean, it can be a lot, but two, I mean, it's surreal. And being a new family, obviously we didn't have those first years of their lives to create bonding experiences and, experience life together. I mean, once again, our kids were 10 and 6, and, by the time we went 7 and 11, so, a lot of their lives had already been lived when it comes to their childhood. So what was really, really amazing is, especially as a new family, having those shared experiences, those new experiences together to bond us as a family was really, and you can all probably attest to that, the magic just kind of helps.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, the magic can can go a long way for sure.
Mm-hmm. See, I can be long-winded too. It's great.
Hey, that's good. We're both talking. That's
You
awesome.
guys are doing great.
Well, I won't feel guilty about it now.
Just let it naturally come out. It's all good.
Right.
Yeah. After hearing about both your all's experiences, I think one of the things that when I was adopting, and I had an international adoption, so I think it's neat that we have different representations of adoption here, and just how each of those can help at Disney. And one of the big things that was discussed in like all the trainings that we went to was attachment. I don't know if y'all had to, in your different states had different trainings, or but for us, we had required training that we had to do for attachment. And that, I think that's one of the huge things when I mentioned, just being able to be taken away from like the real world is like, and for people out there who may not be be a part of this or know somebody who's been a part of it, there's, in general, attachment is when you're trying to, as a family, your main nuclear family unit, make sure that the children that you're adopting, make the correct connections with you, and then slowly, as you go out from other family and close friends and the general public, make sure that they're getting able to attach to you. And there can be different challenges with that, as far as just having the time together to be able to do that. I know our adoption agency had suggested like long period of time where we were just away from everybody else, and that's just not necessarily who we we were. We had some of that, but then we're like, we got to get out in the world and do things. So but Disney was a big part of that. Part of our experience was we adopted from China, and we left out of Hong Kong, and we stopped by Hong Kong Disneyland on both of our adoption trips out of there. And that was an awesome way for our kids to just be relaxed in that situation. We were taking them from, they were younger, so it helps to do that. But we were taking them from everything that they knew, but they were able to relax and have fun and get a chance to experience the fun instead of all the different things that you're thinking about when you're in the legal side of it and the paperwork side of it and all those things. And and then when we got back, we lived in South Carolina at the time, and we in Charleston, in fact.
Yeah.
Yep. And we'll have to talk about that, but
yeah,
a little bit. But we got annual passes, even though we were in Charleston. It's about 6 or 7 hour drive. We slowly moved closer. Like we changed houses, we got like half an hour closer, and then now we're down in. We live in Florida and are about an hour. I think an hour and 17 minutes is with the appropriate traffic. So, but that was huge for us to. We experience some of the world, and then we get a chance to go be a family unit for without the outside influence. That's where I just see such importance in that, and everything that the organization is doing to help provide those trips, because I know from experience how much that's can be, not just that Disney's fun or that Disney's an awesome experience, but for families and for folks that experience it, for the first time when they're 37, it's never too late to experience Disney, we'll say. I'm a big believer in that. But and I think the other part of that, which I hadn't really thought of until you just mentioned it, Josh, was the, um, I've talked to other families who tried to go to Disney, and it was a little overwhelming for them because they didn't, it was their first time at Disney, or they didn't have, that guidance. So I think that is an important layer of it as well, that you're not only, helping these families to go to Disney and have that bonding experience, but you're adding that additional layer of, you don't need to worry about, X, Y, and Z, because we've got you covered there. So it takes out that additional, stress level of those items. So, just for people that are thinking about, okay, what, what's, the important things here in this mission, those are, I think, some of the key things that, that are there. So I appreciate that, everything that you all are doing to do that. So, so that, we'll get back and kind of summarize some more about, mission in a moment, but I just want to learn a little bit more about, y'all as just Disney fans, and because a big part of what we're doing is just talking about Disney and trying to help other people have positive experiences there. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about just your Disney experience as well, and anything else you want to share along the way, we can definitely get to. So I think one of the easiest questions to answer, so we'll start with that, is, and maybe not the easiest answer, because I think like me, there were multiple answers here, from a few folks. So, and you can do that, that's fine. But Matt, what is your favorite Disney treat?
Yeah, and this is where I, ended up breaking it down by park.
And that's okay. We can do that.
And time of day. I mean, if I have to say, like, my favorite thing to do would be the Magic Kingdom at night, the Main Street Bakery there, which is right before it kind of opens up before the castle. Get the cookie ice cream sandwich, where it's like these 2 giant cookies and like half a gallon of ice cream squeezed between them, and watch the fireworks with that. I mean, you get the smells from the bakery. It's it's magical. So what we did was, the kids and my wife and I, like, we got 2 of these cookies and shared it among the 4 of us. We probably had leftovers from that because they were huge. But it's something nice. It's a fabulous treat. During the day, I don't know if I'd ever had this before, but Josh and Coco introduced us to the Dole Whip, which was over by Aladdin. Oh yeah, that is also pretty incredible. Let's see, Animal Kingdom. What was it? Tusker House. Cinnamon rolls. Or caramel rolls. I mean, they're both fantastic. And I think, I don't know, a churro in Mexico is always good too at Epcot. So.
Yeah, I have to say I'm a huge fan of the Tusker House. That's one of my favorite dining locations of all. So
I think we did a character dinner there too.
Yeah, we did the character dining experience. One of the things, Scott, we try to offer too is a character dining experience, because the characters are so popular, because our groups are usually so big. We also offer the character dining experience there at the Tusker House that both Matt and Jordan's trips we took them to. So it was a great way for the kids, as to get in person, personal time with the characters, which means so much. Plus good food too.
Yeah.
So, all right, Jordan, what's your favorite? You can break it down by park. You can have one, however you want to.
Because I'm not a sweets guy, so when it comes to treats, like, if
it can be savory,
to me, it's like
easy
pizza, like that's a treat. But that's not really like anything special. When we went to the Dole Whip, though, boy, that was a whole nother level. I'd never experienced that. And then they had this raspberry Dole Whip thing, not Dole Whip, but it was a raspberry whip thing. And I was like, this is it. So that was the only treat that I really had the whole time. The kids, now my kids will drink sugar, eat sugar, bathe in sugar. Seriously, if they were at an addiction, it would be sugar of any kind. And so they probably could tell you better what their favorite treats were, but yeah, it was for me. I just like food, so it was like, oh, there's burgers and fries, perfect, nacho. So that's just me. But Dole Whip, yes, if it was a sweet treat, that was it for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, same
How about you,
here.
Josh? All right.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the Dole Whips are great. Again, the Dole Whips, our Dole Whip started when we lived in Hawaii, not to backtrack too far, but going to the Dole Plantation on Oahu. So when we found that they had something very, very similar at Disney, yeah, of course, home run. So we were set there. So Dole Whips are a given. My wife and I are big fans of Epcot. Like I said, I could live at the World Showcase. So a good bratwurst in Germany. I recently discovered, finally, I was able to get a reservation at Via Napoli in Italy. The pizza's amazing. My goodness. And yeah, I'm throwing one shout out for my wife too. She's a big fan of the Mickey pretzels with the cheese you can dip in. She loves the cheese.
Okay.
You take the cheese if she could just buy that. So
You know,
You can't do a pretzel cheese.
yeah.
I was on the I think it's called the mini. There's different names for every park, but the Mini Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. And when we were going through the line, I saw like an unopened thing of cheese, and I just thought that's just a tragedy. I'm not going to pick it up because, especially we're recording. It's
But you thought about it.
I thought about it. I thought about
I had to cross your mind.
the record.
This is extra cheese. This is probably at
On the
least like
record,
$4 worth of cheese if you break it down between the the pretzel and
Absolutely.
the cheese.
That's
But I resisted.
Oh, my daughter loved the macaroons in France. Now that I'm thinking about.
Okay.
Oh, they had macaroons? I thought of
Yeah.
macaroons. Those are like my jam.
Or is it?
You're talking about the big ones.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
you're
big
right.
giant ones.
That's different. Macaroons
the-
and Coke.
It's the
Yeah, that's
pastry
what
shop.
I never pronounce it. I pronounce them both the same way. So is it the big
Macarons.
ones or the small?
Let's see. I think the macaroons are the coconut covered ones, and the macarons are the little sandwiches.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think so.
I had an 8th grade I teach band. I had an 8th grade trombone player go over that with me this week in a lesson because he had just baked macaroons. So
Yeah.
he wanted to make it
I
very
like-
clear to me. So they're both good.
They are both. Well, to me, macarons or macrons or whatever, they just, I don't know, they're just cookies with sugar on them. That doesn't really do much for me. But the macaroons with the coconut and the cakiness, oh yeah, I can eat those all day. Pop those things like pills. Like, oh God.
Yeah, I think they might have some of the biggest ones there at the French bakery. I think anything from the French bakery is fine with me. That's a common stop for us towards the end of the night or during the middle of the day, or if we need to get over there for a snack.
There's so many options at Epcot, right? I mean, every country there. The Food and Wine Festival too, right? All the options there. So
Yep.
a lot of good options.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we hit a
Nope, go ahead. Sorry.
I just said I think we hit a few different spots. I definitely remember we had a brat there. I don't know if I went with you or if I went with Coco. I think it was Coco.
Probably Coco.
We had to get brats and a beer. I remember that.
Yeah.
And then my wife had sushi or something through Japan. And I don't remember if we had much else, but we went and we hit some bakery. I don't know if it was. I think it was at Epcot, but I don't know if it was It was more of a ice cream or I think it was an ice cream.
Yeah, there's a
shop or something out there.
The ice cream shop used to be the bakery, and now they've moved the bakery and the ice cream shop separate, but they're both really close together with each other. Yeah. It was a very narrow place.
Yeah, because it was definitely.
Yeah.
It was definitely a French place. I remember that distinctly.
Yeah.
I can read any of this. You're getting the brown one.
Right.
That's all I can.
Now, I haven't obviously been there in 4 years, but out of curiosity, does anybody have any Disney studios like best eats? Or the only thing I can think of is I think I had coffee there that was really good once. But I typically think, the morning, I was probably there in the morning. So that's probably why.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
I'm assuming Star Wars Land probably has some really cool stuff, but I haven't been there.
Josh, say about that.
What's that?
Yeah, I don't know if they had
that
like popcorn, like treats wise, like their savory food is really good. I think treats wise, I don't know. They have like some colorful popcorn. They have the blue and green milk.
Yeah.
But the
Haven't tried.
I tend to like the it's not always consistent what's there. That I think that's the biggest thing. But there is a one thing that is consistent is a carrot cake whoopie pie that you can get at the there's a bakery that's on like the main area there. It used to be in the writer's stop, but then they took that over to expand one of the restaurants. So that's no longer there. So I forget where it is now, but I know that was.
You're sorry, I just had an epiphany. I'm forgetting the Sci-Fi Drive-In Diner.
Yes.
Is awesome too, by the way. That's something that we haven't had a chance to take the families. It's so popular. But when Coco and I, when my wife and I go, we love stopping there. So anyway, that's just they should have one of those in every city, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, yeah. I think they always have interesting treats at, and they've been spreading them at like the seasonal treats. They'll spread out through the park, but like the Backlot Express. I don't know if you all got a chance to see that, but but they'll have like specialty items there. I think my all-time favorite overall Disney parks is in the Norway pavilion. They have something called school bread there in the Norway bakery.
Yep.
And it's like a little. Some people have called it like dry, dry. not kind terms for it. So it's kind of an acquired thing, I guess. I don't know. I've liked it always, but it's like a not like super. It's kind of sweet roll, but it's filled with like cream and then topped with coconut and then more cream, a different type of cream on top of it. But that can either be dinner or breakfast for me. So I think that's my all-time favorite. But I'm a big Dole Whip fan as well. So
yeah, good man.
Wrong.
Yeah. So getting into a little bit different category, because we could talk about food all day. So
I would.
Yeah. And I'll open this up a little bit. We always look at like attractions as like the rides, but we can look at that from a standpoint of like shows and things like that as well. What were you could either say, what was your favorite, or you could say, just what answer from a standpoint of what were some of the aspects you liked best about some of the things that they did in the park, whether that was a show, an attraction, just the general atmosphere, or a place that you were like, this is an awesome spot to be. And if that's too broad, we can narrow it down too.
I'll kick it off if you guys are good. I mean, I think, like I said, Epcot, Sunset, always awesome. Pandora at night is just, you talk about magical, just roam around that place. Star Wars at night, Star Wars at day. So, Matt, we got to go. We'll take you there, buddy. We're going to meet you guys there soon, hopefully, being a Star Wars fan yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, those are the ones that jump off. And I mean, just a random thing too is we've started doing the monorail experience, kind of hopping off and doing like the monorail bar crawl for my wife and I. So just popping in the different resorts when you can has been fun. So those are some that come to mind right off the top of my head, but you can't go wrong. Jordan, Matt, what about you guys?
You want to go first, Matt?
Sure. I mean, so I went to Disney World way back it was about 2000. I had some friends that, families that would always travel down there like 3 times a year. And I just kept making fun of them. Like, why do you keep vacationing the same spot? That's ridiculous. Like, you don't get it. You don't get it at all. So, eventually they were like, you know what, I ended up, mooching my way along or something like that. They basically said, why don't, you're friends with all our kids, so why don't you just come with us? So ended up doing that. And what was it, like Illuminations, Reflections of Earth, which is now no longer, I don't know what has replaced it yet, because I haven't, like I said, been there since we were there, together probably about 3-4 years ago. But yeah, no, I mean, Illuminations is great, and I'll tie it back to that in a second. But it was like a group of teenagers. I was, 17 at the time, and so the idea was once you're done with that, you book it to the monorail and try to get to the Magic Kingdom to see their
Hmm.
fireworks show. And what happened was we were coming around, on the monorail, and the fireworks were going off, and that itself
Yes.
was just a magical, sight to behold as well. And then, fast forward, 15, 20 years to when, we're all there with, the kids, we're just watching the kids, watch these fireworks shows, and just like, just the looks on their faces, because, even though I love the music and I love watching the show, half of that whole more than half of the whole Disney trip for me was just watching my kids and just watching them enjoy it too. It's kind of like passing, watching the next generation, become enthralled with that's a lot, that was the biggest part of it, is watching the kids. Like my son, like, is a Star Wars, huge Star Wars fan, and that's probably me indoctrinating him, but whatever. It is, it's my job.
Right.
However, I mean, we show up at Disney Studios, which, the stormtroopers come through and they, do their little morning routine, and then they walk off. And my son is just like, just kept following him. And, he was about 6 or 7. So that line between like, is this a real stormtrooper, or is this just a character in a, costume? Like, that line was still kind of there for him. So he's like, wow, like, just, and then he was, marching behind him and stuff. And so just watching the experience that the kids got to have is probably, and I know that's a very generic way to say that, but what's your favorite moment? Oh, watching my kids. But really, I mean,
I agree.
that was it. I mean, there's a lot of really, amazing things about Disney and whatnot, but that's probably the highlight.
No, I can agree with that. It was, like I said, my youngest daughter, who was not adopted, she is obsessed with like Rapunzel. She loves all the princesses, but she was obsessed with Rapunzel. And the other girls all had their favorites. And so when we went there, the biggest thing for me was being able to have them all meet the princesses, and in their minds, they're real. So it's like, oh, this is really Rapunzel, even though her hair is really short now. But it's just like to give them that experience was really cool. And I agree with that. I mean, you watch them with their favorite princess or their favorite character. And my daughter, it's funny, I'll tell you this, and this might make me a bad dad, but up until we got there, I had no idea that my daughter even knew who Daisy Duck was, let alone that was her favorite, like, Mickey Mouse character. She's like, Daisy, I love it. I'm like, how do you know her name? Like, just surprised to know her. But she was like obsessed. And when I recorded her seeing Daisy and meeting Daisy, and it was just like special for her. So I agree with that. But as far as like the attractions, now we went at a really cool time. We don't do holidays. We don't celebrate holidays, but we went during the Christmas season to the parks. And so when we went to so this is for me, this is purely selfish. I'm getting off my kids for a second because I spoil them enough. But no, we went to Magic Kingdom, and they decorated the castle, and it was so beautiful. It really was. Like, as far as things go, the way that they decorated the lights and everything was so beautiful, and I couldn't get enough of it. That to me was really, and it brought me back to as a kid too, watching the movies. I grew up on all of them, Aladdin, Lion King, all the ones that really started to make Disney back to what it was when Snow White came out, or, so it was pretty special. And I, I loved being there, but there's not really, I mean, we went on a lot of rides. There weren't any that really stood out as like, I take that back. Every ride stood out in one factor. If you go to Disney versus a normal theme park, you get on a ride, you wait in line for an hour, hour and a half, you get on a ride, and you get off 30 seconds later, right? And you're like, oh, that was a blast. Let's wait another hour and a half and go again. Whereas Disney, it's like a 10-minute ride every single time, like 5-10 minutes, and you're just sitting there You're just like, this should be over. It's a roller coaster. And you're like, nope, stop for the Yeti. And it's just, it was kind of, it's an experience. Everything is an experience at Disney. And so to be able to go on some of these rides and be on them for 10 minutes, you're just like, this is insane. Cause it's fun. It's not boring, but Pandora at night, like Josh said, was, man, when we first went there, I almost lost my mind. It was gorgeous, like the black lights and everything. So it was overall, there's so many things that they try to make it, like I said, an experience. It's so special because it's not just Coke that's $8 and, you know, a bad, cheap wood ride that you might fall off of at any point. You know, it's actually more than that. They bring you in and they make it more of a special occasion. And it was overall, I love that everything was just such a big experience there.
Nice. And Matt, before Josh does his, I just wanted to note the year that you were there, 2000. I was there too. I don't know if we saw each other. We might have. I think I was 16 at the time. So, but that would have been like when Illuminations the Reflections of Earth part started in 2000 to celebrate like Epcot 2000. I assume you were there when the Spaceship Earth had the big like wand on it and everything.
Yep,
yeah,
I did.
So.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people like that, but I did. So yeah.
I forgot about that. So that was before my time. Yeah, I mean, just to add on my stuff, I think one thing, Matt, you were talking about, it's funny is seeing Disney through, kind of experiencing it through the kids, seeing it through their eyes in a way. It's funny. My wife and I haven't adopted. It's something we've discussed, especially as we go on these trips and everything. Fostering adoption is becoming something that we are becoming more and more open to. Anyway, we like to say we adopt families instead, as weird as it sounds, but it's cool. I think the way, Matt, Jordan, the way you guys see it through your kids' eyes, Coke and I see that through y'all's eyes, the whole family. And it's just, the feeling you guys get watching through your kids, the same feeling we get watching it through all the family's eyes. So, you talk about like the favorite park or something like that, or the favorite area. It's just being in the park with the families, anywhere, anytime, the kids are smiling, having a good time, making new friends, memories being made. So, it's all the above for us. It's such an incredible trip and something we wish we could do every day with them. It's hard to be distant from you guys. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. I love all of y'all's answers because they're all unique in their own way. I mean, each part of some of the things that you said, I could speak to for hours, but I won't. But I'll, just mention like, from a standpoint of like one place that is, I think Wilderness Lodge or Fort Wilderness does that for me. Like my boys will go, even if we're not going to Disney, I think like one of their passes was expired one time. And so we just went to Wilderness Lodge and ate and, Up what happened to be on for the movie that night. And so we watched that. We watched, the water pageant parade that was there. We just happened to hit like, fireworks were going on like as we were, rolling up and, it's just we'll just like climb to the top and see all the different levels. There's all these different seating areas. There's even like they're doing renovations now, so they've moved it down to a lower level, but like up on the 4th level, there's just like this stand that has like rocks and a whole bunch of like geological information about rocks. It's just so all these little things, and there's lots of stories in the Wilderness Lodge, but going back to like the experience itself, I think you mentioned even though you're not celebrating holidays, like the magic of the castle being lit up, that lighting for Christmas and like especially when they're like parades are coming down there, I would, they have all these extra parties which are extra ticketed events, and people always ask, well, how are you wanting to pay, and for an extra ticketed event. I just look at like and they're not doing it this year, but for any other year, I just look at the pictures that we took from the previous year, and like the lighting and the snow, and yeah, I'm getting like welling emotions as I'm talking about them. But whatever they do there, that is like the biggest emotional response I think that I could have. And like looking at normally there's lots of people around you and things like that, and you're trying to find a good position to watch the parade and whatnot. But yeah, when I remember, and I don't always do this, but when I remember to look at like what my kids are experiencing, and seeing it from their eyes, and even from my eyes as an adult, those are definitely magical moments that it's like I look back at that picture and like, yeah, we're gonna go spend that money and go do that again, because it's that experience that you want to get back to. But
in a world of craziness, everything going on in the world these days, for to have a place like Disney, kind of a happy place, and kind of get away from everything. There's not too many places like that these days, so it's looking forward to getting back there. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think we're getting close to our time, so I wanted to ask each of you to share like one, to help with like Dads of Adventure and the mission there too. We are all about trying to help dads have positive Disney and life adventures. So what would be one thing, from the Disney experiences that you had that you would share with all the other dads or Disney fans out there to have a positive experience?
Plan it out.
Really, that's I mean, like when I sent that when I was talking about the answers before or the thoughts before, excuse me, frog in my throat. I think that if I had just gone and gotten my kids to be like, we're going to Disney, and tried to just go, it would have been a disaster. It really would have been. And the fact that we were able to plan, even though we went 4 days in a row to all 4 parks, we went 1 day to each park, and we were on our feet. I think like I tracked it. I think we had 1 day under like 20,000 steps. So we're just walking the whole time. And by the time we got home, I literally needed 3 days off just because my legs and my feet were so tired and blistered from the trip. But if I was able to plan it out more, I would have done, and Josh actually alluded to this when we were planning that. Unfortunately, the way that things worked out, we weren't able to get that. But typically, you would want a day off in between a couple of the parks, at least a couple of rest days where you can just go hang out by the pool. So if you can afford to do that, then by all means, please take the rest days because you'll need them. My kids always came back to the room sleeping. Like they would go in to the room, and right now with this crazy pandemic and the schooling that we're having to do with the kids and stuff, they fight sleep like crazy. But when we're in Disney, with all the stuff going on, you'd think they'd be fighting sleep. Those guys would be out cold. So it was like I wanted to take them to Disney every day just so I could get them on a normal sleep schedule. But it was, if you can plan it out and you can have somebody who can help you. Josh and Coco were so great because they had it planned out. They knew where we were going to go and what we were going to do. And we still had freedom to do other things, but we were able to really assign certain things that of importance at certain times so that we could make sure to fit everything in. So if you can actually plan out your day and be prepared and not just go haphazard and say, hey, it's what happens. I think you'll actually enjoy your time a lot more there because you can do the things that really matter. If you have one trip, that's the other thing. I haven't been back. I've never been before. I keep talking about going back and trying to make plans to go there. Now it's a little crazy, obviously, but I want to go back so badly, but I would be nervous going, even with my one trip under my belt. I think Josh can attest to this. I've texted him a few times. I'm like, Josh, we're going to try and plan another trip. You're going to be up for going? Because he doesn't know this now. Well, now he does. but my whole plan is to get Josh and Coco to plan the trip for us and help us make sure that we don't screw it up. But yeah, absolute planning is number one.
Yeah. You gotta put together some spreadsheets for them, or
Spreadsheets. And yeah, well, I will say, let me plug a couple of people. One, Carmen, my wife, is great about putting together kind of a preparation sheet for them, so that always goes out to all the families. Two, shout out to Lisa Rebstock. She is actually, I think like your wife, Scott, I think she's a travel agent, kind of Disney travel agent. So she actually works with, at least the past 2 trips, she's worked with a lot of the families to try to plan and get everything. She knows it much better than we do. So she's heavy on the front end. And then 3 is one of our other board members, Sandy Dell, who is actually one of the landlords in Hawaii that I spoke of. She's also paramount. She actually made the second trip with us and the families, which was great, all the way from Hawaii. But yeah, point being is just plan it, right? So I know when we plan it ourselves, whether it's just Coco and I, or we go with all the families, you know, you got the fast passes, you've got, okay, here are the park hours, here are the extra magic hours. And my pet peeve is I don't like zigzagging. I don't like crisscrossing. 20,000 steps can easily be 60,000 if you're not careful. So, you know, I try to sit there and kind of plan out the fast passes times, like Jordan said, you know, kind of a lot for downtime here and there, so we can just kind of cruise, take our time. And if a ride shuts down, so your Dole Whip experience, Jordan, that came up because of Splash Mountain was down. It was, you know, our fast pass was like, hey, I don't know if it's
so
going to
unfortunate.
happen. Yeah. So we're like, all right, so what do we go do? Dole Whips. Let's go try some Dole Whips. So while we're having our Dole Whips in our happy state, Splash Mountain came back online. Fast pass schedule aligned perfectly. You know, sprinted over to Splash Mountain, and Dole Whips in our belly, had a great ride. So I think, yeah, definitely plan and budget too. You know, just we're big fans of, you know, obviously you could eat throughout the parks, you know, spend the money on the colas and the pretzels if you want to here and there. But I mean, bring snacks, bring drinks with you. You know what I mean? Save some of that money for the kiddos, spend it in other ways. Definitely experience the food that you want to, but, you know, try to, you know, Disney's great about that, bringing your own waters and snacks in there. So just definitely take advantage of that too and stretch that dollar, you know?
And always free ice water. Anywhere that they have a fountain, free ice water. Yeah.
Yep.
That's funny, because my 3 things were: schedule your day to optimize your park time. Number 2, optimize your fast passes. And number 3, bring snacks. Basically, yeah. I mean, like the fast passes are huge. And I think it depends whether you're staying on property. I don't know, because it's changed so much since whenever, but sometimes if you're on property, you get more perks, a certain number, like an additional fast pass or something. Yeah. And those are always kind of worth doing. And then knowing which park is opening the earliest, so to speak. Because oftentimes, if you get to a park 2 hours after it opened, you might be out of luck. It's much easier to get there when the park opens and walk on rides and things like that, as opposed to showing up to a park 2 hours late. Once, you know, the fast passes are now all pushed back and whatnot. So that's a big thing. Yeah, the other thing too is like just the day. You know, you get tired. I think we did this when we were there with you guys, Josh. But, you know, you hit the park early in the morning, you know, about lunchtime or just after lunch, head back to the hotel, take a nap, hit the pool, and about 4 or 5, head back to the park, because the busiest and hottest time of the day is that afternoon. And by then your crew is tired and crabby if they're tired of walking and need a little recharge. So I really love the idea of heading back to the hotel, having the kids swim in the pool if they want, you know, taking a nap, watching cartoons, whatever it is, heading back to the park.
So you quick comment about your thing with the pool. It's funny, is every trip we've gone on, it seems like the kids would be happy if we just went to the hotel pool, honestly. You know what I mean? It's like they love the parks, don't get me wrong. We all love the parks, but the pool is always a hit. So we usually stay at our resort. We try to stay at something kind of no frills, but you're not really there. But the kids love the pools there. And I think to Jordan's other comment too is, you know, we try to allow for a downtime day if we can, go 2 days, take a day off type thing. It's kind of just Disney's availability, things like that kind of determine some of that. But yeah, to both y'all's points, if you go back, get some chill time at the hotel, get out of the heat, relax at the pool, go back for the evening hours, just breaking up your day, I think it definitely kind of alleviates some stress, right?
Yeah. All excellent answers, and I think that I would agree with everything.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
the other thing I was
go ahead
if I can, and I mean, our son has like ADHD, and if your child has a disability or anything like that that makes it, difficult, you can stop at guest services basically on your way in the park. It's on the left side, and they scan in your something or other. But basically, it's kind of like a built-in fast pass, so that you get preferential, treatment for, long lines and things like that. And I don't remember exactly how it worked, but it was a lifesaver for a
It's
kid
like
who
a
can't
it's like a
focus.
disability pass or something like that, or what was
I
it?
think it's something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
you can get like a red tag for your stroller, and basically that identifies your stroller as a. Wait, I mean, if you have like a wheelchair or something like that, but they will even put like a red tag on your stroller if you have a stroller, or just give you. And now they're starting to do it on, especially with everything going on right now. It's on the Magic Bands, and so
mhm, right.
um, I'm try to make it easier. Yep. But definitely recommend that. Little tricks like that, like just um, if you have kids that are scared of haunted mansion, that's one of my tips. Is you can skip the stretching room, and they will route you around it, and you'll get on the ride from there. So things like that. So nice. Well, we are about out of time, so I wanted to just have a quick moment and mention one quick thing is that Josh, I think you hit it on the head. Like being a part of adoption is not, and um, and being part of a Disney family is not always about that nuclear family. It's not always about being the adopter, but people that are in support of that. We definitely had lots of people that were, take a lot of people use the term "it takes a village." Totally true. So, um, but so I think that's important to know that even if you're not adopting yourself, there's always something that you can do to get involved in that process. And what you find sometimes is you may end up adopting anyway once you get into that process. But so we'll see how that works out for you, Josh, in a couple of years here. But
Well, I don't know. I think it really hits at what the heart of Disney is. Like all of these Disney stories are about people finding family in non-biological ways, right? Discovering that your family are really the people, the, community that you surround yourself with and get through those tough times and joyful times and all of those things. And really that's what makes a family. And I feel like that's really what, Disney movies have taught us, so to speak, or the TV shows, and also the parks too. I mean, you're not always there with just your nuclear family or just your traditional biological family. Sometimes you're there with in our case, our adoptive kids who are now our family, and then our extended family who are these other adoptive families who travel with us, and Josh and Coco who are showing us the ropes. I mean, it's one of these things. For spring break this year, we were thinking, oh boy, it'd be great to go to Disney, but financially wasn't going to quite hit that. So we went down to Texas. And on the way, we stayed with Josh and Coco, and then we also stopped and saw one of the other families in Kansas City that we had had been traveling on the trip as well. So I mean, on our trip, we still stay in contact with those families, and it's family is much bigger than oftentimes people give it credit for. So, and that's really what I think is at the heart of adventures out there, is that building a family, and Disney is just perfect to those values connect.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the fact that you were able to do it with 3 other families, unique situations that who knows if they would have been able to take their family. I mean, I don't know when we would have gotten there had we not had that experience. And now maybe it's motivated me to try and go again. But the reality is that it's not always easy to I live in Indiana now, South Carolina and Charleston. It wouldn't have been such a far jaunt down to Orlando to check out Disney. But moving up here and the uncertainty of everything, we had no idea when, if we would be able to make that. And so to have an organization that was providing that for, 3 families that in just our year, 3 families that may not have had that situation, and for instance, my kids, um, my kids came from a household where they never got outside. When we took custody of them, they had like this greenish complexion. And it's because they never got in the sun. They were malnourished. And it was a situation that they were going to be sick. I mean, the conditions they lived in was not good for a child, actually an adult, let alone a child. So, when they came to us, we lived in Charleston. They got all the sun in the world, and it was great because then they started to like, oh, yeah. Well, it's funny because they, like I said, they were, honestly, I have pictures still, and they were literally greenish color. And then I found out that they could tan better than I can because I'm mostly Irish, and so I just burn. I turn red like my shirt. So these kids are like coming out and they're all perfectly tan, look like models. I hate you all. I almost got rid of them for that alone. But me and my wife are like vampires, by the way. So we're white, and so they had an experience now where they were out and doing stuff, and they were outside. And so the fact that we were able to, I literally gave up on Disney, and my wife's like, I'll make this happen. And I give all the credit to my wife. And then once she got that plan, and when she puts her mind to something, she'll make it happen. I mean, that's really how it goes. Like, she's the one who actually initiated the adoption. She's like, we got to take those kids. Like, she was trying to do it before they were the CPS even took them. She's like, we're going to take them. I'm like, baby, that's kidnapping. So last time I checked, against the law. But it was really cool that they were available, and then to experience Josh and Coco they're great people. They really are. And the organization, to be able to do that for us was so fantastic. And my wife especially keeps up with a couple of the families that I'm terrible about it. I text Josh sometimes after months. I'm like, hey, by the way, I still remember you. But it's amazing what they do, and I can't say how much I love them, because it's just that words can't express it. They're fantastic. So AIOT is a pretty special organization.
We appreciate the kind words, fellas. We love you guys too, and just happy that we can kind of play our part. And what you guys are, I guess I've told you guys before, you guys are the angels to us. We're just a chapter in your life. We can't wait to see what's ahead for you guys.
Yeah, and more so obviously the kids. And what's amazing about it is, once again, in my mind, you just take these kids that have seen the worst of the worst, and Adventures Out There just kind of like blows it out of the water and gives them the world. So thanks for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank Disney. I mean, it's like I said, it's a team effort. Disney, Adventures Out There, you guys. I mean, it's one big happy experience. So.
Yep.
Can you just share, how can people help the organization to continue the mission that you're doing right now?
Yeah. So again, the website's adventure.ngo. Adventure is out there. You can find us on Facebook. I mean, the big thing is just spreading the word, getting the word out there. You'd be surprised how many you think we get more nomination forms, but there's still a lot of people that know about us. So spreading the word that we want to help more families, and then donations too, right? We estimate it's about $5,000 per family is what we try to fundraise. We do that every year. So donations, if people are in a position to give, we've got families in need. We want to take this and do some really great things beyond what we've done, and we appreciate any help that you can do.
Again, we'll put information out there on how to access the website and find adventures out there in any places that they are. But you can show your support in a number of ways, like Josh was saying, by letting them know about families that would be great for this experience. You can donate. You can have your own fundraisers if you want to. And if you need ideas, come to me. I'll help you figure something out. I'm sure Josh will help you figure something out too if you want to fundraise in some way. But just to wrap things up, again, we'll get all that information out there. But Josh, if you could mention the website and any other social media where people can find you one more time here.
Yeah. So again, the website is www.adventure.ngo, and the website, sorry, the Facebook page, which is AIOT17, or just search for adventures out there.
All right, excellent. And yeah, for Dads of Adventure, we'll just sign off here, and you can find us at Dads of Adventure on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're listening to this podcast, you can also see it on video on the Dreams Magic Adventure YouTube channel, or if you're watching it on YouTube, you can listen to it on your favorite podcast app, and you can also find us at dadsofadventure.com, where you can sign up for the newsletter and be a part of the membership as well. So we thank you for listening, and we will end this with the way that we end everything. And I think it's even more fitting with the group that we're being a part of, is go have an adventure with your family. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.